It all began on an ordinary day. The world was busy with its usual problems. People were going to work, kids were at school, and scientists were doing their regular research. No one knew that a strange event was about to change everything. It started with a signal. At first, it seemed like just random noise from space. Scientists working in deep space observatories were used to hearing strange sounds from the vast emptiness. But this signal was different. It wasn't random. It had a pattern. Dr. Emily Johnson, a leading scientist in space communication, was the first to notice something unusual. She had been monitoring signals for years, but this one stood out. It wasn't like anything she had ever seen before. The pattern was too precise. The frequency was too clear. It was as if someone, or something, was trying to communicate. At first, Emily thought it might be a mistake. Maybe a satellite was malfunctioning, or it was a glitch in their equipment. But when she ran more tests, she saw the same signal again and again. There was no mistake. This was real. Excited and nervous, Dr. Johnson contacted her colleagues. Together, they tried to decode the message. The signal wasn't just a random burst of noise, it was organized. And after several hours of work, they finally started to make sense of it. The message was a warning. Surrender, Earth. The Empire is coming. The message was clear. It wasn't a friendly greeting. It wasn't an invitation. It was a command. And the tone was cold, emotionless. There was no doubt in Emily's mind. This was not a joke. This was serious. Word spread quickly. The government was alerted and military leaders gathered in secret meetings. The people who had once been skeptical about the possibility of alien life now had undeniable proof that something was out there. Something much bigger and more powerful than they could have imagined. As the message echoed in the ears of the world's leaders, panic began to spread. People feared the worst. What was this empire? Where were they coming from? How powerful were they? And most importantly, what did they want with Earth? The following days were filled with chaos. News channels were flooded with discussions about the message. Some people believed it was a hoax. Others, like Dr. Johnson, knew it was real and terrifying. But no one knew what to do. Earth had never been threatened by anything like this before. One thing was certain. The message had left Earth with a choice: surrender or fight. But what could humanity do against an alien empire that could communicate across the stars? While world leaders argued and debated, Dr. Johnson worked tirelessly. To understand the rest of the signal, she was determined to learn more, to find out what the aliens were really saying. Late into the night, she decoded another part of the message. This one was even more chilling. Your world will be ours. Resistance is futile. You have one choice: submit or face destruction. The warning was clear. Earth had no option but to submit. The alien empire had already made up its mind. They were coming, and they would not be stopped. The fate of humanity seemed sealed. But even as the world trembled in fear, something unexpected happened. A young military commander named General Alex Carter spoke up. He had been in the room during the emergency meeting, and he wasn't afraid. We don't surrender. We prepare. Those simple words changed everything. While many wanted to panic or submit, Carter and his team were already working on a plan. The Earth's best scientists, engineers, and military minds were put to work, secretly building a fleet of warships. This fleet was unlike anything the world had ever seen. While the rest of the world prepared for the worst, Earth's military forces quietly worked in the shadows. They knew the alien empire would be powerful, but they also knew that humanity's strength wasn't in numbers. It was in its ability to fight back, to adapt, and to never give up. As days passed, tensions rose. Earth's leaders tried to make contact with the aliens, but there was no reply. It seemed as if the Empire had already decided what would happen. They were coming, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. But Dr. Johnson, General Carter, and the others knew something that the aliens didn't. They knew that Earth wasn't just a planet to be conquered. It was a planet that would fight back. And so as the alien ships moved closer to Earth, the world held its breath. The Empire expected a weak, frightened humanity that would beg for mercy. But what they didn't know was that humanity had something far stronger than fear. Humanity had the will to survive. The countdown to the invasion had begun. But what the Empire didn't know was that Earth's true weapon had just begun to awaken. The sky above Earth grew darker each day as the alien ships approached. They weren't just any ships. These were colossal, towering structures that cast shadows across the entire planet. The world held its breath, knowing the inevitable was coming. The invasion was no longer a distant thought. It was real, and it was happening. People around the world were afraid. News stations ran endless reports, warning of the alien fleet that had now entered the outer reaches of the solar system. Panic began to spread in the streets while leaders in their secret bunkers discussed how they might survive. But even as fear gripped humanity, there was something stirring beneath the surface. In the quiet shadows of Earth's military bases, a plan was unfolding, one that the aliens never expected. For the first time, humans were coming together, united in the face of a common enemy. They were no longer just scattered nations, each fighting their own battles. They were preparing for a war like no other. The world's top scientists, engineers, and military strategists had been working for months on a project known only to a select few, Project Atlas. Hidden away in underground bunkers and secure space stations, a fleet of warships was being built. These ships were different. They weren't just ships. They were humanity's answer to the alien threat. They were designed not just to fight, but to win. General Carter, who had spoken those famous words, "We do not surrender, we prepare," had been overseeing the project. And now, as the alien ships drew closer, it was time to reveal what Earth had been working on in secret. The first of the warships, sleek and black, emerged from behind the moon, gliding silently through the cold vacuum of space. It was a sight no one on Earth had seen before, and it filled those who knew about it with a mixture of awe and hope. But the aliens had no idea what was coming. They had expected Earth to be weak, afraid, ready to kneel and accept whatever terms the Empire offered. They had underestimated humanity's strength. While they had prepared to take Earth without a fight, the sudden appearance of these warships sent shockwaves through the alien ranks. They weren't just seeing a few ships, they were witnessing the beginning of an entire fleet, and they weren't ready for it. The first message Earth sent to the Empire was short, simple, and to the point. "We do not surrender. Leave now." The alien ships had no immediate response. They were accustomed to enemies cowering before them, begging for mercy. But there was no begging from Earth. Instead, the world was gathering its strength, showing the Empire that Earth wasn't going to go down without a fight. Days passed, and the alien fleet continued its slow advance toward Earth. The tension in the air grew thick. It wasn't just the military that was on edge. Ordinary people felt the weight of the moment. For the first time in history, humanity was facing an enemy that was not of this world. No one knew what would happen next, but one thing was certain. Earth wasn't going to let this happen without a fight. As the alien ships grew closer, Earth's fleet moved into position. It was time for the final preparations. Earth's warships weren't large in number compared to the alien fleet, but they had something the invaders didn't: technology designed specifically to fight this war. Advanced weapons, smart AI, and stealth technology made the ships nearly invisible to the alien sensors. Earth's military was not just prepared for the fight, it was prepared to surprise. With each passing hour, the two fleets grew closer, and the people of Earth waited, breathless, for what was to come. No one knew how the battle would unfold, but the anticipation was unbearable. Every citizen, whether they were in a crowded city or a small village, felt the weight of this moment. They had no idea what would happen next, but they knew that this fight wasn't just about survival. It was about proving that Earth would never surrender, no matter the cost. The Empire's fleet loomed on the horizon, a dark cloud growing larger. But Earth's warships, silent and ready, prepared to meet them. As the first ship, the Phoenix, took its place at the front of the fleet, General Carter stood with his crew looking out at the stars. He didn't know what was coming, But he knew one thing. Earth wasn't going down without showing the universe just how strong humanity could be. And so, with a final command, Earth's warships fired their first shots, sending a clear message to the Empire. We are not your prey. We will fight. The battle had begun. As the first shots from Earth's warships lit up the darkness of space, the tension became almost unbearable. The ships of the alien empire were massive, overwhelming in size, but Earth's warships were fast and agile, built with the one thing the Empire had underestimated: the determination of humankind. The ships weren't just machines. They were symbols of a world that refused to be dominated. The alien fleet, expecting a swift and easy conquest, hesitated. They had never seen anything like this. For the first time, they felt uncertainty, something they weren't used to. Earth wasn't begging for mercy. Earth wasn't afraid. Earth was fighting back. General Carter watched from his command station as the first clash began. The Empire's ships were strong, their weapons powerful, but Earth's warships had something more. They had the advantage of surprise. The Empire had expected fear, but what they found was resilience, sharp tactics, and a new kind of strength. The alien ships, though large and intimidating, were slow. Earth's fleet, with their advanced maneuverability and quick-thinking crews, began to outmaneuver the invaders. Each ship had been designed with the sole purpose of turning the tide in humanity's favor. It wasn't just about fighting. It was about outsmarting the Empire at every turn. One by one, the alien ships began to falter. They had never faced an enemy like this, one that could adapt so quickly, one that refused to back down. The aliens thought that their numbers alone would overwhelm Earth's forces, but they were wrong. The Earth fleet was small in comparison, but they fought with everything they had. The commander of the alien fleet, an experienced leader named Varkal, watched in disbelief as his ship struggled to land a hit. He had never seen anything like this. Earth's warships moved like shadows in the dark, disappearing from sight before the Empire could even react. Every time the aliens thought they had the upper hand, another surprise would come. Another Earth ship would appear, firing a powerful blast from a hidden location, leaving the invaders scrambling. The aliens were not used to being the ones on the defensive. They had conquered countless worlds, and yet here they were, fighting against a force that refused to yield. The battle seemed endless, but it was clear. Earth was making its stand. Despite the chaos of the battle, General Carter remained calm. He knew that this fight was about more than just the immediate clash. It was about sending a message to the Empire, a message that humanity was not going to back down. The world had united, and this was their moment to show that they would not be crushed under the weight of an alien invasion. On Earth, news of the battle spread quickly. People watched from their homes, anxiously awaiting updates. Every victory, every small win was broadcast live, and it gave the people of Earth a spark of hope. They had seen their military fight in the past, but this was something different. The stakes were higher, and the pressure was immense. Yet the resolve of the soldiers, pilots, and engineers who were fighting for humanity was stronger than anything the aliens had expected. General Carter, watching the battle unfold on his screens, issued new commands. Earth ships, though few, were proving their worth. But there was more to come. The fleet was not only made to fight, but also to outthink. They had been designed with strategies that the aliens could never have predicted: shifting tactics, invisible maneuvers, and adaptive defenses. The human fleet had a secret weapon: the ability to adapt in real time, changing their approach based on what the Empire did next. As the alien ships regrouped and prepared for a counterattack, Carter had no intention of waiting for them. He had a plan, one that he hoped would make all the difference. "We hit them where they least expect it," he said firmly, his voice carrying the weight of his determination. The alien fleet was preparing for a final assault. They had underestimated Earth's resilience, but they still believed their overwhelming firepower would crush the human resistance. They didn't know that humanity's true strength wasn't in its weapons or its numbers, but in its spirit. The general's plan began to take shape. His fleet would focus on one target, a key alien vessel that had been directing the battle. If they could disable it, the Empire's forces would lose their coordination, and the advantage would shift back to Earth. The stakes were high. The plan was risky, but there was no turning back now. The ships of Earth's fleet began their move, coordinating in perfect harmony. The Empire's fleet, still trying to regroup, was caught off guard. The human ships moved swiftly, attacking in unexpected places. For every alien strike, Earth countered with precision. The battle raged on, and the ships of Earth proved that they were not just fighting for survival, they were fighting for the future of their world. As the hours passed, the aliens began to realize that this wasn't a battle they could win easily. This wasn't going to be a conquest. This was a war, and the war was far from over. As the battle raged in the cold depths of space, the alien fleet began to shift, unsure of what to make of Earth's resilient response. The unexpected moves of Earth's warships had caught them off guard. And now, they found themselves in a precarious situation. The massive ships that once seemed so invincible were now struggling, and the alien commanders knew they had to rethink their approach. Back on Earth, the mood was tense. The world watched as the battle played out on screens, with each passing moment heightening the uncertainty. People were glued to their televisions, tracking the movements of the warships as they danced through space. The strange thing was, despite the fear, there was a sense of pride in the air. The whole planet was united in watching the fight unfold, and for the first time it felt like humanity wasn't just a victim. It was a force to be reckoned with. General Carter stood in his command room, staring at the large monitors that displayed real-time updates from the battlefront. The fleet had been fighting fiercely for hours now, and there had been no sign of the aliens pulling back. The invasion was far from over, and Earth's warships were running low on resources. But there was something the aliens didn't understand. Humans had a resource far more valuable than ammunition or technology. They had hope. As the alien ships advanced, Carter made a bold decision. The alien fleet had sent its most experienced commanders to lead the invasion, and while they were brilliant, they had one flaw. They underestimated their enemy. The aliens thought Earth would give up, that humanity would simply collapse under the weight of their advanced weaponry. But they hadn't accounted for human ingenuity, for the ability to rise against the odds, to find strength when all seemed lost. "I'm giving the order," Carter said, his voice resolute. "Prepare the fleet for the final phase." He wasn't sure if his plan would succeed, but there was no time to waste. His team had been working on something special, a new kind of weapon, one that hadn't been tested in battle yet. It was Earth's last-ditch effort to turn the tide. Meanwhile, far in space, the alien fleet continued its relentless approach toward Earth. Their commanders were confident. The sheer size and power of their armada should have been enough to crush any resistance. But now, as the first cracks began to show, they were beginning to worry. Why hadn't Earth fallen yet? Why hadn't they surrendered? Their answers would come soon enough. Back on Earth, the countdown began. The fleet was ready and the plan was set in motion. Earth's warships, now coordinated like never before, began to position themselves. They were preparing for a maneuver that would catch the aliens completely off guard. It wasn't about brute strength, it was about timing, precision, and the element of surprise. As Earth's fleet moved into position, the tension in space grew palpable. The alien commanders watched in confusion as Earth ships began to act, in a way they hadn't predicted. There was a calmness in the human forces, a quiet before the storm that made the aliens uneasy. General Carter's plan was now in action. His ships, using the unique stealth technology developed during Project Atlas, began to fade into the blackness of space. To the alien sensors, it appeared as though the human fleet had simply disappeared. The Empire had no idea where the ships were, what they were doing, or where they would strike next. Carter's voice came through the comms, calm and steady. "All ships, proceed with Phase 2. Suddenly, the quiet calm of space shattered. From the void emerged Earth's warships, not as a single force, but as separate, unexpected clusters. They were everywhere, moving with uncanny precision, hitting the Empire's fleet from all sides. each ship in the right place at the right time. The alien fleet had no time to react, no way to regroup. The alien commanders were thrown into chaos. They had never faced anything like this. Their sensors had failed to detect the hidden warships, and now they were being outflanked and outmaneuvered. The invasion that had seemed so certain just hours ago was unraveling before their eyes. Back on Earth, people watched in amazement as their ships struck the alien armada with unparalleled coordination. It was as if Earth had been playing the long game, waiting for the perfect moment to unleash its full power. The world had never seen anything like this. The Earth fleet was no longer a mere defensive force. It was a striking, agile, and precise force, moving with deadly accuracy. As the battle intensified, the aliens began to realize they were losing control. Their once mighty fleet was now scattered, vulnerable, and unable to respond to the relentless assault from Earth's forces. The unexpected maneuver was paying off, and the aliens had no choice but to retreat. But this wasn't the end of the fight. Far from it. The battle was far from won, but humanity had shown the galaxy something that no one would forget. Earth wasn't just a small, weak planet. It was a force to be reckoned with. The message was clear. Earth would not fall without a fight, and the aliens would have to rethink everything they knew about the universe. And as the alien fleet retreated, General Carter stood tall, looking at the battle unfolding on his screens. He knew this was only the beginning. Earth had taken its stand, and the universe would never be the same again. The fight for survival was far from over, but humanity had just shown its true strength. And with that, the battle for Earth entered a new, even more uncertain phase. The retreat of the alien fleet did not signal the end of the struggle. In fact, it was only the beginning of a new and more dangerous phase of the conflict. Earth had won a critical battle, but the war was far from over. The aliens, though thrown off balance, were not easily defeated. They would return, and when they did, they would be even more prepared. On Earth, the news of the unexpected victory sent ripples of relief and pride throughout the globe. But General Carter knew better than to celebrate too soon. The aliens, humiliated by their failure, would regroup and come back with a vengeance. The fight for Earth was far from over, and the world needed to prepare for the next stage. The general gathered his top officers in the war room, their faces grim despite the victory they had just secured. "This was just a first strike," he said, his voice low but firm. "The aliens will return, and we need to be ready. We've shown them we're not helpless, but we cannot let our guard down." Across the world, preparations began in earnest. Every nation, every person united in a way that had never been seen before. It was as if the alien invasion had awakened something deep within humanity, a shared determination to survive, to protect their home at any cost. Every city, every country was working together, building, strengthening, and advancing their technologies, all in preparation for the next wave. As the days passed, the alien forces licked their wounds in the distant corners of the galaxy. They had learned a valuable lesson. Earth was not an easy target. The invaders were reassembling, but this time, they were changing their tactics, studying Earth's strategies and enhancing their ships with new technology. They would not be caught off guard again. But General Carter had already anticipated this. The moment the aliens retreated, his team had begun analyzing their strategies, predicting their next move. Earth's warships, once the underdogs, were now evolving. They were not just being upgraded with better weapons. Humanity was learning from the aliens. New defense systems, advanced communication networks, and improved stealth technology were being integrated into the fleet. They were ready to face whatever the Empire threw at them next. In a secret base, deep beneath the surface of Earth, the engineers and scientists worked day and night. Their mission was clear: to give humanity the upper hand. The alien fleet had underestimated human resolve, and now it was time to turn the tables. The newest fleet of ships was being constructed, sleek, fast, and armed with technology that no alien could have imagined. The aliens, however, were not idle. Their scouts had returned with information about Earth's plans, and they were adapting. The Galactic invaders had a vast, intricate network of spies and informants, all of whom were tracking the progress of Earth's defenses. But what the aliens couldn't track was something far more dangerous: Earth's creativity. While the aliens focused on building more powerful ships and weapons, the humans focused on outsmarting them. They understood that brute force alone wouldn't win the war. It was about tactics, surprise, and adaptability. Every new ship that Earth launched was a step toward turning the tide of the war in their favor. General Carter stood before his team, now more determined than ever. "We're not just defending Earth. We're taking the fight to them. They won't expect it, but we will be ready." The first wave of new ships was launched, and the world held its breath. Each ship was designed not just to fight, but to confuse, outmaneuver, and overwhelm the alien forces. These ships were faster, stealthier, and equipped with advanced AI that could predict enemy movements and react in real time. It was humanity's answer to the Empire's arrogance, a new breed of warships that could anticipate the enemy's every move. As the new ships soared into space, they took up positions in the galaxy, ready to strike when the time was right. The alien forces had no idea what was coming. And yet, even as humanity prepared for the next stage, there was a sense of unease. The battle was about to get much more complicated, and there was no guarantee of victory. But for the first time, the fate of Earth was in the hands of those who believed they could win. Back on Earth, people were glued to their screens once again. They knew the next phase of the battle would be critical. The world had already proven its strength, but the true test was yet to come. Would the aliens return in greater force, or would humanity's advancements be enough to hold them off? The uncertainty hung in the air like a storm ready to break. General Carter was resolute. The victory had been hard won, but it was only a beginning. Earth had to be ready for whatever came next, because they knew one thing for certain: the alien empire would not give up, but neither would Earth. As Earth's warships entered the galactic battlefield once more, the message was clear: humanity would never surrender. No matter the odds, no matter the size of the enemy, they would fight until their last breath. Battle for Earth had just entered its next chapter, and humanity's determination was the force that would carry them forward. The tension in space was palpable as Earth's warships gathered on the edge of the galaxy. The last few weeks had been a blur of preparation, innovation, and anticipation. General Carter stood at the command center, his eyes fixed on the screen as the first wave of new ships moved into position. Earth was no longer just defending itself. It was on the offensive. But was it enough? Across the galaxy, the alien empire had regrouped, determined to finish what they had started. Their forces were larger, their technology more advanced, and their resolve stronger than ever. But what the invaders did not realize was that Earth's greatest strength was not in its technology or firepower. It was in its people. The human spirit, bound by determination and unity, was not something the Empire could easily overcome. The first clash was imminent, and everyone knew it could change the course of the war. On Earth, the atmosphere was tense. Every nation, every citizen was watching, waiting. People from every corner of the world stood together, hoping that humanity's new tactics, its new fleet, would be enough to turn the tide. But no one could predict the outcome. Not even General Carter. As the alien fleet appeared on the horizon, Earth's warships moved forward, cutting through the stars with precision. The ships weren't just faster, they were smarter. Each ship was connected by a network that allowed them to think as one, to anticipate enemy movements, and to adapt in real time. The Earth fleet had evolved, not just in terms of technology, but in strategy. They weren't playing by the same rules anymore. And then, as the two forces met in the cold void of space, something unexpected happened. The alien ships, which had once seemed like an unstoppable force, began to falter. Their movements were erratic. Their communication systems jammed. Earth's fleet had somehow gotten inside their heads, throwing them off balance in ways they couldn't understand. The aliens had always relied on their overwhelming firepower to crush their enemies. But now they were facing something entirely different: human ingenuity. For the first time since the invasion began, the alien commanders were unsure. They had faced resistance before, but this was unlike anything they had experienced. Earth's ships were elusive, unpredictable, and they had a deep understanding of the aliens' weaknesses. Each attack seemed perfectly timed, each maneuver precisely calculated to strike when the aliens least expected it. Back on Earth, the feeling of unity grew stronger. People from every corner of the world watched in awe as their ships outsmarted the alien forces, each victory bolstering their hope. The realization was dawning. Earth wasn't just defending itself, it was actively fighting back, with strength, strategy, and courage. The alien empire was no longer the invincible force they had once been. General Carter stood at the center of it all, his mind sharp and focused. He knew that this battle was far from over. The aliens were still formidable, their technology superior in many ways, but humanity had learned from its mistakes. They were no longer underestimating the enemy. The new fleet was built on the lessons of the past, and every move they made was calculated to ensure success. Phase 2 is working, Carter said, his voice steady, though the weight of the situation pressed heavily on his shoulders. We're pushing them back, but this is only the beginning. We have to keep the pressure on. We can't afford to let up now. And so the battle raged on, but with each passing moment it became clearer. The tide had turned. The aliens had underestimated the strength of Earth's resolve. They had thought humanity would crumble under pressure, but instead, Earth had risen stronger, more united, and more determined than ever before. The next phase of the war would be crucial. The aliens, now realizing that their plans had been thrown into disarray, would be forced to adapt. But Earth was ready. Humanity had proven that it was no longer a weak, helpless species. It was a force to be reckoned with. And no matter what came next, Earth would not back down. As the battle continued in space, General Carter's resolve only grew stronger. He knew that Earth's future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Humanity's will to survive, to protect their home, was an unstoppable force. The alien empire would soon learn that underestimating Earth was the greatest mistake they could have made. The war was far from over, but Earth had shown the universe that humanity was not just a victim, it was a victor in the making.